So Michaud's influence is huge, and we saw already an important examples of Michaud using the ballade and Chaucer using the ballade and Michaud using the rondeau. And now we're going to look at a very famous English rondeau. It's a triple rondeau, and it's been attributed to Chaucer for many years, although there's really no proof that Chaucer actually wrote it. Usually what happens with Chaucer is that if an English poem is spectacular, the presumption is Chaucer wrote it. Now, this triple rondeau is called Merciless Beauty. It's made up of 3 rondeaus that are put on top of each other. This is a very French thing as well. You look in their books of poetry, because the French were writing books on how to write poetry, and you find examples of double rondeaus, triple rondeaus, double ballades, the doubling, tripling of it, ways of making the fixed forms, which seem very strict. You're allowed to experiment within the form itself, and so you'll find examples like this. Now, each rondeau in Merciless Beauty is a little longer, okay? They're what we call rondeau tercets. That means that each rondeau has a 3-line refrain or chorus, okay? It's not the simple 2-line refrain you saw in the Michaud examples, which we call classic or rondeau simple. So that means that you also have a much longer poem. It's no longer 8 lines. It's going to be either 11 lines or 13 lines, depending on the design you're doing with the rondeau tercet. Chaucer and the English preferred 13. As you can see, the rondeau tercet has a 3-line refrain. I've marked out the rhyme scheme A, B, B. Then we have 2 lines of new material. And then this is the half refrain. It is the first 2 lines of the refrain in A, B. And then it continues with 3 lines of new material, ending with the full refrain. And then this pattern will repeat itself 2 more times because this is a rondeau tercet. So each rondeau will be 13 lines. Merciless Beauty is just like the Michaud rondeau we looked at previously. It's also about the bad parts of love. The first rondeau opens with love killing him, and love and death is a theme in medieval literature. Love can kill you. You can suffer from love sickness, which makes you wane and get ill and then eventually die. Though here there is hope, all right? The hope is to hear from her one word, some acknowledgement from her, a yes perhaps, that she loves him and will undo the pain. Your I in toi, notice it opens with your, that's the respectful you, right? That's the you plural functioning like the French plural vous in a respectful manner. She's worthy of adoration, consideration. She's not thy. She's not intimate. She's not a friend. She's someone that demands respect. Your eye in toi will slay me suddenly. Your 2 eyes will suddenly slay me, kill me. It may the beauty of them not sustain. It cannot sustain its beauty. Notice also the inverted syntax here. So woundeth it throughout my heart, Cain. It sharply hurts my heart. You're seeing a bunch of medieval topoi. Love causes death. Love wounds, which results in love sickness. And of course, the heart, and in this case, pierced by love, pierced by beauty. And but your word will heal it hastily. But this is the thing that he's hoping, that she'll say something and that wound will suddenly be cured. My heart this wound is while that it is green. This triple rondeau then traces the consequences of her no, her negation of his love. You see, that's why these relationships are asymmetrical. It's the lover asking for affirmation from the person they love. That's why One of the theories of medieval love is that love is always singular. This is Marcianus Capella made this theory, that your experience of love is singular in the sense that you cannot confirm truly if the person you love loves you back. Even if they, and so obviously you could ask and say, do you love me? But in this period, the design of these poems is that she is always inaccessible. And of course you can substitute she for he, as Christine de Pizan does, and the idea still works. But the point is that negations are the fundamental feature of lyric poetry, and in these allegorical poems that we've been looking at, that no is also personified in the figure of danger. We get the word danger from this word. It personifies the lady's resistance, her disdain, her no. In fact, when we look at Charles of Orleans next week, you'll notice that danger is impeding her from saying yes. And in fact, danger becomes, and this comes from another book, the Roman de la Rose, danger is like a jailer or a jealous husband, forcing the lady who truly wants to love to be unable to do so. It's an excuse for the woman saying no. So here we find this in the last line of the second refrain. This is the second refrain, the start of the next rondeaus. This is a triple rondeau, 3 rondeau tercets. So hath your beauty from your heart chased. This is obviously inverted syntax. Beauty has been expelled from her heart. Pity that me n'availeth not to plain. Like there's no use for me to complain or make a complaint. For danger halt your mercy in his chain. The blame, of course, is on nature, another allegorical figure. If she wasn't so beautiful, if she hadn't been made by nature to be beautiful, this wouldn't be the problem. And it's also a pity because with such beauty, she acts so evilly. Alas, that nature hath in you compassed so great beauté that no man may attain. Like, it's terrible that, alas, like that's exclamatio, that nature has given you this beauty that no man can ever have. To mercy though he stare for it to pain, right? He will die because he does not receive mercy from you, and mercy is another topos of love. Pity brings mercy and forgiveness. It's religious topos that's also judicial. This triple rondeau ends with the poet looking back. This would be in the final rondeau. Having escaped the prison of love, and this is a classic French topos. You'll also find it in Charles of Orleans. Remember, danger in that previous rondeau, in this triple rondeau, had chains. This is the opening refrain from the third rondeau tercet in this triple rondeau. Since I from love escaped me so fat, I never think to being in his prison lean. That's a contrast, that's antithesis between being fat and being skinny. Having escaped love, he is no longer in love's prison. He's no longer a prisoner of love, this medieval topos that you'll even find in Charles of Orleans. Since I am free, I count him not a bean. I don't care about him. He may answer and say this and that. I do no force. I speak right as I mean. Since I from love escaped am so fat, I never think to being in his prison lean. Like, I can't believe this is how the rondeau, this is how the refrain changes. I can't even believe that I was in love. And finally, we get an image we'll see in the morality plays, specifically Everyman, as well as Charles of Orleans next week. It's the Book of Records. The Middle Ages at this time, or the Middle Ages in general, is a very literate culture, and society is organized by written records. In fact, you hate going to the DMV, you hate all that triplicate. That's, the Middle Ages gave you the bureaucracy, triplicate, paperwork, sign this paper, sign that paper. That's a product of the Middle Ages. And so poets use that new way of organizing society, this administrative quality, because most of the writers at this time are also secretaries and administrators. They're like the DMV people who also write poetry. So you'll find references to paperwork. Machaut was a secretary. Chaucer was an administrator. Hoccleve worked at the Privy Office. He was a supervisor of a bunch of clerks. Basically, he worked at the DMV. So in this case, the lover is no longer in love's service. And to be in love's service is to be in the service of some sort of nobleman. And that sort of service is no longer feudal in the sense of obligations. It is a contract. In other words, he's no longer under contract. But then neither is love, right? Because as we know, a contract is signed by two people. Love hath my name is strike out of his sclot. And he is stirk out of my books clean. You know, he can write me out of his contract, out of his book, but I've already struck him out of my books forevermore. There is none other mean. There's no other way. Since I from love escaped am so fat, I never think to been in his prison lean. Since I am free, I count him not a bean. In our next episode, we're now going to look at a lyric sequence. We've already seen how certain fixed form poems can be grouped together. We saw that in Chaucer's Fortune, and we've seen this now in Merciless Beauty. Beauty has no mercy is what the idea of this poem was. Merciless Beauty was a triple rondeau. We're now going to look at what is properly called a sequence. It's placing these form-fixed poems into a narrative story. So next week, Charles of Orleans and the ordeals of a lover through the form fix.
Alright guys, don't forget to like and subscribe and ring that notification bell.